Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Nick here, and we're back again with a brand new video today. Today we're going to be doing another movie review for my series reviewing every single Marvel Cinematic Universe film up to the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Today we're going to be reviewing the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise, as well as the second film in Phase 1, The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk was directed by Louis Terrier and stars Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, and Tim Roth. To explain some confusion, The Incredible Hulk is not a sequel to the 2003 Hulk movie starring Eric Bana, directed by Ang Lee. This is simply a reboot of that movie to introduce the Incredible Hulk into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the same universe that we got introduced to through Iron Man. And there's also probably some people who might have watched the Avengers and some of the other stuff that Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner's in who might think, why is he reviewing the Incredible Hulk? The Incredible Hulk's not a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It actually is. It's just not. There's some people who don't know that because the original actor was Ed Norton and not Mark Ruffalo. So I decided to rewatch this movie the other night in preparation for this review, and upon rewatching it, it kind of helped me reevaluate my opinions on it because I had seen it like one other time about a little over a year ago, and so I needed to watch it again to kind of refresh my memory on it. If you guys saw my review for Iron Man, you guys know that I really love the first Iron Man movie. I think it's a stellar superhero movie. It's a great origin story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is another superhero origin story with the Incredible Hulk, but I will say I don't think it's as good as Iron Man. Now that doesn't mean it's bad. It is quite good. It's a very good movie, but it's not a stellar superhero origin story, unfortunately. But it is still quite good, and it's still one that I'd recommend watching. So let's talk about the positives. The first positive of this film I'm going to talk about is Edward Norton's performance. Edward Norton gives a good performance as Bruce Banner in this movie. He's very likable. He does the job well. The only I guess flaw with the performances in this film is that they're good performances, but they're not stellar performances. If you guys saw my Iron Man review, I talked about how the cast in that movie is just brilliant. I think all those actors played their characters really well, and I feel like they were just cast almost entirely perfectly. The Incredible Hulk has a good cast, it really does, but I wouldn't say that these people are perfect casting. Like, there's maybe some people who could have done it a little bit better, or who could have done it like just as fine as someone else done it, but I still think the acting here is good enough, and Edward Norton does a good job. Although I will say though, I think that the decision to recast the Incredible Hulk with Mark Ruffalo down the road in the Avengers was a great decision. But either way, Edward Norton still does a great job in this movie. He's very likable, and he does a good job at helping you understand Bruce's frustration with his anger and a lot of this stuff, so he does a good enough job. And while Edward Norton's performance as the Hulk probably does get overshadowed from Mark Ruffalo's performance in the Avengers, I still think it's a good performance worth giving credit to. Tim Roth is also good in this movie. I think he's arguably just as good as Norton, but you could honestly argue that Tim Roth is the best performance in this movie as the Abomination. Tim Roth really does a good job at playing this like weird character who just does not like Banner or the science behind him and stuff, and he does a good job of playing that jealousy thing there. And Tim Roth overall, like when he becomes the Abomination, like you really buy into the fact that this is an evil guy. So props to Tim Roth for giving a great performance as the Abomination. Liv Tyler is quite good in this movie too. Again, as I said, there could have been another actor who could have done her part, but she does a good job as Betty Ross. And I think a part where the casting here was well done, and where I was like, okay, they really nailed the casting here, was the chemistry between Edward Norton and Liv Tyler. So even though they're good actors and not stellar actors in this movie, I still think the two of them have great on-screen chemistry, so I think that does give the movie some points in my opinion. The action sequences in The Incredible Hulk are great. I think the sequences where the Hulk goes crazy, and as well as the final battle at the end, awesome stuff. It's choreographed pretty well, it's edited pretty well. It could have been a little bit better in some parts, but I think overall it does look great, and I really enjoy seeing the action sequences in this movie. They never drag, it's just at times the editing can be a little bit tricky, but either way, the action sequences in this movie are very fun to watch. I think that for the most part, the cinematographers and the special effect people did a good job with it. The movie also moves at a nice brisk pace. This is actually one of the shorter Marvel movies. It's a little under 2 hours long, and it moves at a quick pace, but actually I think for the story of the Incredible Hulk, it actually works pretty well. I like the fact that it's not too slow. It doesn't take its time to just like be a super serious movie. I like the fact that it kind of runs on like a brisk, fun pace and stuff. And well, this isn't a perfect movie. I still think that its pacing is really well done. I think that that's probably one of the best aspects about The Incredible Hulk is how well and brisk the pacing is. So as I said, this is not an amazing superhero origin story movie, but it's still a very good one. It's a decent origin story movie for the Hulk, and there's not really a whole lot of complaints I have about this movie. It's just not as good as Iron Man. So if you were to watch Iron Man and then watch Incredible Hulk, it's noticeably not as good, but it's still very much good in its own way. So I think to compare it, like the way that I am, seems a little bit redundant, but I still think that The Incredible Hulk's a decent origin story, and I think it's definitely worth watching. I do have a few flaws with the movie, though, and I'm going to get into that right now. I think some of the CGI in The Incredible Hulk is a bit messy. When I talked about Iron Man in my last video, I talked about how the CGI in that movie has aged really well, and I think it still stands out and looks very good even in 2022. I think the CGI in this movie, for the most part, looks pretty good, but there's a few moments where the CGI is a bit iffy and doesn't look as good, and it doesn't feel like it's aged quite as well. But there's a few. It's not that it looks bad. There's just a few moments where I'm kind of just like, yeah, I can tell that you're a generated image on a screen. But aside from those few moments, the CGI for the most part was pretty good in this movie. Now, as I previously said, the performances in this movie are not stellar, but they are still quite good, and they make for a watchable movie. So I can't really complain about the acting in this movie. It's just it's not as memorable as some of the acting that you would see in Iron Man or in some of the other Marvel movies, but the acting in this movie is still good, so I give the actors props. And as I said before, I give props to Tim Roth for his great performance as the Abomination, the chemistry between Ed Norton and Liv Tyler, and Edward Norton's pretty good performance as Bruce Banner. And then my last kind of flaw with The Incredible Hulk, which is kind of like where I kind of start talking about how this one's not as good as Iron Man 1, is I wish I spent a little bit more time ironing out the details of Bruce and Betty's relationship. Because even though the actors play the characters very well, and I do care for these two characters and the relationship going on between Bruce and Betty, I kind of wish that the screenwriters would spend a little bit more time kind of explaining how their relationship came to be or what their relationship was like before the thing that separated the two of them. I kind of just wanted to know more about that, because if they told a little bit more backstory for it, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. It didn't have to be anything crazy. It didn't have to be any super deep like storytelling, but it could have been kind of something like the first Spider-Man movie. You saw the first Spider-Man movie. They didn't go into a super deep like history over Peter and MJ's relationship. It was just Peter kind of just narrated that they knew each other since they were kids, and that's how it worked. So I kind of wish they would have done that with Bruce and Betty in this movie, but that's kind of like a flaw that I can kind of overlook. It's not going to stop me from enjoying The Incredible Hulk. It's just I wish they would have done that a little bit more, so I would have been able to care for the characters a little bit more, if you know what I mean. The Incredible Hulk overall, while not as good as Iron Man 1, is still a pretty good superhero movie. It's a decent origin story for the Hulk. I still think it's definitely a strong point in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm going to give The Incredible Hulk an overall rating of an 8 out of 10. Not a perfect movie, but still a very entertaining movie that is definitely worth checking out, and I'm going to give it an overall grade of a B. The Incredible Hulk's not a perfect movie, but you know what? That doesn't stop it from being a good movie. If you haven't seen The Incredible Hulk, go watch The Incredible Hulk. I really do think it's a decent origin story for the character, and The Incredible Hulk's character only gets better as the Marvel Cinematic Universe progresses. Leave a comment down below telling me what you think about The Incredible Hulk. And make sure you tune in just a few days to see my review of the next Marvel Cinematic Universe film, Iron Man 2, which should be coming out hopefully in a few days. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Make sure that you hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Comment down below, tell me what you thought. And yeah, that's been it. Peace.